Hello and welcome to the new video. Today we're going to take a look at top 10 secret buffs for the new season. So Pokemon that did not actually directly get a buff, but that are most likely a little bit better next season. And so this is going to be a little bit more opinion based as well. So if you enjoy this type of videos, of course, feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you have not already. We're getting closer to the 50-50 split. Would really appreciate if you check if you subscribed. But we're going to move on to the first Pokemon. This is going to be the only one that is actually going to decrease in terms of the average rating here, which you're gonna see on the right side as well now. It's gonna go down to 105, but Talonflame, or in general, Fire-type Pokemon, are most likely going to have a little bit more play. Others, for example, like Typhlosion, are going to have more play also because of the move update, but you also have like Skeledirge and stuff like this, which is going to have a little bit more play in my opinion, while the meta is not going to shift too crazy and it's not going to be too impactful either. Like water-type Pokemon like Lantern, which is like one of the hardest answer, or like the hardest answer to Talonflame, is going to be a little bit less common. And basically, yeah, even against other water-type Pokemon like Whiscash, Talonflame can still deal with it because they have Fly on this Pokemon. But here, for example, now Whiscash is going to be a little bit less common, but still kind of viable, but also doesn't get the debuff too often. And also then, of course, Lantern, which is going to be able to resist all your damage, is going to be less common as well, which is kind of nice for the Talonflame. Moving on to the second one, Charjabug. Charjabug is now the best electric type Pokemon, which is quite interesting as well for this one. It is the best electric type by kind of far, to be fair. You can still use Spark, of course, on Lantern, but it's most likely a little bit worse than the Water Gun, so Water Gun is going to be a little bit better. It keeps Skarmory in check and also some of the other Pokemon that are going to be later on the list. So I feel like Charjabug, as you can see here as well, getting +7 in terms of rating and like, okay, 0.1 in terms of viability there. This Pokemon is still going to have a little bit more play this next season, even though it's, of course, already one of the best electric type Pokemon. Now it's clearly the best electric type Pokemon for the meta, and the meta is still kind of between Skarmory and some water type Pokemon, which we are also going to take a look at a little bit later now as well. So let's move on to the third one, which is going to be a Pokemon that's also kind of weak to Charjabug, but Deoxys honestly is quite an interesting one. Deoxys defense form is going to actually gain quite a lot here, as you're gonna see, 9 actual rating and like 0.6 in terms of the other rating. I actually kind of wanted to put even Medicham on here, which kind of climbed up a little bit. It's kind of interesting, right? Because like there's no real nerf which kind of would impact those Pokemon, but I still feel like this one has quite a lot of potential because the Pokemon that are kind of getting buffed by the change of Whiscash as well as, of course, the Lantern are kind of weak to Deoxys. Deoxys is just a very neutral Pokemon for the current meta. And so Deoxys is one of these secret Pokemon that definitely got a little bit of a buff now, and you're going to see also other Pokemon now in this list that are definitely going to be weak against Deoxys, like for example, the Pelipper, which is going to be weak to the Thunderbolt. The Pelipper is going to be also, of course, yeah, Thunderbolt also on the Deoxys. It's just kind of nice as coverage right now because most likely more Pokemon that are weak to Electric going to thrive up a little bit more because Lantern is going to be now kind of gone. Not really gone, to be fair. I think like Water Gun Lantern is still going to have a lot of play. I think people are going to still even use Spark Lantern, by the way. But yeah, here we're going to see Pelipper, of course, kind of an easy one for this one. Like I could have also put the Mantine on here, but basically, I like the water type coverage on the Pelipper a little bit more. I know Mantine now also gets the move Water Pulse, which is going to be an okay move to use, but I still like Pelipper in terms of this one. It's a little bit less lame. But yeah, Mantine also got a little bit of a buff. But yeah, more Steel type Pokemon most likely going to be around because, again, like Whiscash is going to be dropping a little bit. Again, Whiscash is still going to be around. It's not going to be completely vanishing at all. For sure not. Like, again, the damage output is kind of still the same, but people are usually tend to not run those Pokemon that get nerfed. For whatever reason, like we had like several different kind of scenarios before as well, where, for example, Registeel just got a slight nerf and like everybody dropped it immediately, which was like so silly. But again, I would imagine that we're going to encounter less Lantern, and I would imagine that we're going to encounter maybe a little bit less Whiscash, which is actually kind of bad for the Pelipper, but still, there are quite a lot of Pokemon that this thing can now beat, and we see as well here +4 rating because Lantern kind of does not really want to run Spark anymore, which is kind of good for this one as well. Empoleon is like one of those which I kind of feel like are kind of obvious picks that are going to be very, very good because like Whiscash and Lantern and Poliwrath are all Pokemon that got nerfed a little bit this season, and so they might drop a few points in usage, which is going to help Empoleon out quite a bit. But also Empoleon is kind of decent against other Pokemon on this list already that got buffed as well, so Empoleon definitely going to be kind of nice. Quite a lot of other Pokemon like Steel-type Pokemon like a Skarmory, which is also, spoiler alert, going to be on this list, where you're going to be able to beat them quite easily. And so as you can see here as well, going to rank from 24 to 20 now, especially with the Lantern being vanished. It's definitely a Pokemon that kind of benefits from it. Again, I would imagine that Empoleon is going to get nerfed next season, not because Empoleon is so strong, but because Steel Wing is too strong on another Pokemon. Not on this one, because it would be kind of funny though. Toxapex or Steel Wing would be kind of hilarious, but Toxapex actually going to benefit quite a bit from the Water Gun Lantern nerf, plus also Tentacruel got nerfed. Tentacruel was basically same typing, so like people used either of them. Tentacruel was a little bit more flexible, so Tentacruel was kind of preferred a lot of times, but now where Scald got nerfed a little bit, yeah, Toxapex of course can kind of be also considered as like the best water and poison type Pokemon, but also it beats Water Gun Lantern, which is just kind of important because you resist the fast move, you have neutral damage with Poison Jab and Such Wave, which allows you to win the 1 in 2 shield scenario against the Water Gun Lantern. And also as you can see here, it got kind of a little bit higher up as well, which is kind of nice for it. Next one is going to be a one that is again a little bit more better against Water Gun Lantern, which is Jellicent. Again, a lot of water type Pokemon on this list because sadly, water-type Pokemon are just so good in the current meta, but also like this one has a lot of the good matchups against other Pokemon on this list, which you're gonna see later as well, especially the top Pokemon that got buffed this season. As you're gonna see as well, just gonna get up by 2 average rating, but yeah, again, like I think this Pokemon has a lot more play this season as well, especially because Lantern is kinda gone. You most likely don't really want to see this Pokemon, but yeah, like it is kinda a hit or miss one, by the way. Like, you could even argue that it got nerfed, but I think it kind of more got buffed. Whiscash, of course, again, like, Whiscash is not going to disappear. I don't really want to think that people are going to not use Whiscash anymore. But Water Gun Lantern might be even worse for this Pokemon, you could argue. But I feel like the Pokemon that kind of got buffed by the nerfs are kind of also quite weak to Bastion, which you're gonna see later on as well. But also, for example, we already had Charjabug on this list, which is like one of the more prominent matchups there, or like also the Fire-type Pokemon, which I said earlier on. Those are all kind of very weak to Bastion, so I feel like, as you can see as well, by gaining 1 ranking point there, I feel like this Pokemon has quite some more potential even the next season, which kinda maybe leads again towards Grasshole teams a little bit more, which I don't really want to see, but it might be the case. And yeah, it is what it is, especially if we now have Swift as well on the Wigglytuff. It might be coming down to Bastion and Wigglytuff in the Victreebel again. So hopefully we're gonna see a huge change towards this kind of one for the upcoming season, but we have to see about that anyway. Here we're gonna be at the second to last one now for today, and this is kind of what I want to say as well for like the Pokemon that we saw previously. Mandibuzz is going to be one of the big benefiters from the recent update, because if it encounters Whiscash, like they have to go for Scald. The fast move is double resisted, and so they have to hope in order to win the matchup as a Whiscash to get the debuff on Scald. And now, like, it's very less likelier to get the debuff on Scald. And so, this Pokemon got a huge buff on both of the Pokemon that kinda got nerfed, which is kinda nice, but also, it is insanely neutral on all the other Pokemon. So I would imagine that Mandibuzz is going to be on quite a lot of teams for the upcoming season. Also very good against the current meta anyway. And as you're gonna see here, going from 13 to rank 7 on PvPoke is quite a decent jump. Especially in like those, like, yeah, like you can jump quite much higher if you, for example, like Typhlosion, who were only using Solar Beam previously, and then you can climb like 100 points, but you're already at rank 13, which is really high up on the PvPoke ranking. And then you jump up to rank 7. But it does just make a lot of sense. Like against all those Pokemon where Scald is on them, like you kind of really don't like to have a debuff on the Mandibuzz, and like this Pokemon is going to be quite insane for the next season. So definitely be prepared to see a lot of Mandibuzz. Be prepared to play some Mandibuzz because this Pokemon is going to be insane. At least we had like an event throughout the last season where we had this Pokemon spawning in the wild, and so at least I got very good IVs. Hopefully you also were able to get some very good ones, because you will need it. Final Pokemon for today, I don't really need to make a big secret about this one. Skarmory just completely enjoys all the nerfs that we had now. Like, biggest buff for this Pokemon for sure. Hardest answer kind of got nerfed in terms of Lantern, which is now going to be, like, Lantern is very likely going to be less common. It's not going to completely disappear, but it's most likely going to be way less common. And also against like Pokemon like Whiscash, again, same kind of play like against the Mandibuzz, where they have to go for the Scald in order to debuff you and try to win the matchup. And as you can see here, this Pokemon is going to climb up to rank 5 on the PvP board there, and this is just insane. Like, this Pokemon is going to be most likely everywhere again, and it is guaranteed to get nerfed next season, I would say. Like, I would be very surprised if Steel Ring doesn't get nerfed next season by 1 damage output, because Skarmory is just gonna take over. Like, Skarmory is taking over, and this also kind of very much limits the meta, sadly, in terms of grass types being basically unusable if the hardest answer to any grass type Pokemon currently is one of the best Pokemon to use. Like, grass types just disappear, and that's kind of sad for the meta, I feel like. And so, this is going to be it for the video. Hopefully it was helpful for you, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.